Hey guys, Chef Scott here for Devil's Food Kitchen. Today I have kind of a cool video. I've been thinking of putting together a chocolate sculpture recently. I've had this idea kind of simmering in my head. In the industry we call them showpieces, and the very first step of any piece that I do is sketching. So I wanted to show that process to you today in sort of an unscripted, really raw look at what I'm drawing, why I'm thinking about what I'm thinking about, and just kind of how that process begins. So let's get started, and I will give you an inside look into how my crazy brain works. All right, folks, let's get started. Today I am conceptualizing a sculpture of a Hannya mask. Hannya mask is a traditional Japanese theater mask, and I've actually made one of these once before, but that was years ago, and I feel like I could do a better job. Also, I just really loved making it the first time, and I want to make another one. My standard tools for sketching are a graph pad and a regular old roller ball pen. The line quality of the pen is really nice. I don't smudge it all over my drawing like if I was using pencil. And graph paper is great because I can use the graph squares to create scale drawings for later steps. This initial sketch is really just getting down onto paper what I've been conceptualizing in my head for the past days or weeks, and that's really the start of my process. I have an idea for something, and I typically don't draw that idea right away. I kind of just let it simmer in my subconscious. Traditional Hannya masks have much simpler sets of horns, but I want to do antlers. I just think that would be kind of a cool variation from the theme. I've seen them on samurai helmets, and I love the look. So for any of you out there that are Hannya mask experts, yes, I know this probably isn't accurate. I apologize. Also, for anyone wondering, yes, that's really how I hold my pen. After my quick initial sketch of what I'd like to do, I begin to break the piece down into its various components, and I'm drawing them from angles that make sense to me. So for instance, this is the base, and I want to look at it from a bird's eye view so I can really understand where I want the column support to sit, what I want the look to be. This is part of conceptualizing the piece from all angles that's going to allow me to really understand it so that when I go to build the sculpture, there's no guesswork. I know exactly how all of the pieces should interact with one another and what the final look should be. To create the mask itself, I'm going to be sculpting over a chocolate egg. I have a large chocolate egg mold that I plan to use. This sketch is intended to figure out the initial concept of how to glue the mask onto the rest of the sculpture. So this would be looking at it from behind. I'm planning to make a chocolate sphere that the mask will glue to, and then the sphere will glue to that center column. I'm drawing this from another angle now. Like I said, this part of the process is all about understanding this piece from all sides. As I'm sketching, I'll sometimes leave little notes for future me to understand that pertain to specifics of how the piece is going to look or be put together. Thanks to some Google image searching, which I always do for my pieces, there's nothing wrong with that. I'm playing with the idea of having a Japanese chrysanthemum type design element in the back of the mask, kind of curling around the front. And so that's what I'm sketching out here, trying to envision what that might look like. After a few initial concept sketches, I begin to move on to a stage that's a little more regimented. Here I'm using my graph paper to lay out a scale rendition of the piece. In this case, 1 square equals 1 inch. This is a really important step because as good as something might look during an initial sketch, when you start to lay things out in their real size, or at least a scale version of that, sometimes things look a little different. A perfect example of that is the base of the piece. Now, I was intending to make the base disc 12 inches in diameter, but now that I'm seeing that sketched out, it doesn't look right. It's too large. It makes the whole piece look bottom heavy, kind of like a chess piece. So I'm going to shrink that up and reduce the size to about an 8-inch disc. That's why this step is so important, because I don't want to make these decisions when I'm ready to cast chocolate. With each rendition of the Hannya mask, I become a little bit more comfortable with the forms and shapes. That's part of this process also. With my first Hannya mask on the previous page, I was really tentative with the lines. I wasn't really sure exactly what it should look like, and now I'm becoming a little bit more comfortable with that process. Now I'm working on the concept of the antlers. Initially I was thinking standard deer antlers, but kind of got it in my head to do something a little more wild, almost like eagle talons. And this is just part of the creative process. You sketch a little differently each time, and you never know what new designs you might come up with. So again, another little note to myself about what I want the overall feel of the antlers to be. Now I feel ready to create the final concept sketch. And once again, I'm going back to precise measuring. This time, 1 square equals ½ inch. So this drawing will be twice as large, will give me a really clear idea of what it is I want to create. This scale drawing gives me a much better idea of how the different elements will interact with each other, whether the overall visual weight of the piece and all of the design lines work together. And here I'm really liking this. I'm sold on the antlers. I like the concept. I think it's going to work really well with the chrysanthemum petals, and I'm loving the flow of those petals as well. While I won't be able to mimic those petals exactly in chocolate, it's going to give me a good idea of what type of volume and shape I need to create this overall look. With that, I sign the piece. I'm not really sure why I do that. They just sit in a folder of mine in my office, but this means the sketch is done and I'm ready for the next step. With these initial sketches done, I feel like I've got a pretty good handle on the direction of the piece. I'm starting to think about colors and how everything's going to fit together. So the next step for me will be to create sort of a blueprint, or at least my version of a blueprint, to give me an idea of exactly how I'm going to put everything together. I'm going to save that step for another video, but I hope you enjoyed this one. If you did, please consider subscribing. If you're already a subscriber, thanks very much. And don't forget to turn on notifications so you don't miss any DFK videos. Until next time, I'm Chef Scott for Devil's Food Kitchen.